Good morning and welcome. Can you hear me? Okay. So good morning again. Welcome again, everyone. This breakout session explore a fundamental question: why should early warning system be treated as a permanent public service, a part of the national e-governance platform rather than a standalone donor-funded project, which is happening globally, even under the umbrella of EW Early Warning for All mission mode project announced by United Nations. I am Dr. Roop K. Dave, working at the intersection of the disaster management, early warning system, and national e-governance. That's my domain expertise. I work more than 20 years in e-governance infrastructure planning and management, and more than 25 years in disaster risk management and early warning system. So I have a deeper understanding of these both subjects. That's why I try to bring them together under one umbrella. My message today is simple. That early warning is not a service delivered by one department. Every department needs early warning, whether it's health, education, transport, climate change department now everywhere. Therefore, early warning must be built as a unified national information and communication platform under e-governance, not as a early warning system under the aegis of disaster management authorities in each country, which is happening. So over next 10, 15 minutes, I will be showing you how multi-hazard early warning system can ride on existing e-governance infrastructure, which are already there. I mean, we are most of the time try to reinvent a wheel, which is unfortunately, So how existing e-governance, digital public infrastructure, DPI, SDI, can be used for delivering targeted sustainable service, reaping what we call dual dividend. We strengthen e-governance platform at the same time, early warning system gets strengthened. That is the dual dividend I'm talking about. So this session brings together two complementary perspectives. On one side, we have the national system perspective, the e-governance, digital public infrastructure, the special data infrastructure layer that form the backbone of the government service delivery. That's already a part of the government service delivery. And without SDI, early warning is non-existent. On the other side, we have sectoral applications like Henry will be speaking about that, agriculture, health, Ebola, COVID-19, hantavirus, so many things are going to come, and everywhere those departments involved will need information exchange, emergency communication, alerts and warning. The same context they will need. The key insight is that the national system enables sectoral impact. There is a national system available, and that is the enabler of the sectoral impact in so many relief management and so many other factors. When we built EWS on the top of existing digital infrastructure, rather than creating a parallel system, we get a strategic enabling framework that is sustainable, scalable, and the government-owned, authentic, authoritative. This is the shift we are advocating, or I am advocating at this point, from the move from the project-based intervention to permanent government-owned digital public service, which is inclusive of early warning system. The arrow between this is how the sectorial picture shows. When we see on one hand we have the existing e-governance system with policy protocols, we have DPI and SDI. On the other hand, agriculture is one sector. As I mentioned, COVID-19 is a very, very good example of how early warning system was used for locking down, containing spread, making footprints of the spread. locating the affected people, affected areas, sending those reliefs and everything. So sectors are many, but the platform remains same. So I was talking to one of the participants just now. So it's early warning for agriculture. It cannot be separate. Early warning for health cannot be separate. It has to be a national platform where everybody plugs in and use. It's like a train and track. People can ride, go to their different destination, meet their objectives. So our complementary perspective here is on the left-hand side, national platform, I already explained to you. I think this is a repetition. Every time there is a... So let's have a little bit understanding of multi-hazard early warning system. And it's early warning system is not dissemination, which is an old concept, which everybody, most of the people say disseminating a message is early warning. It's not dissemination of message, which is the early warning. It starts with first understanding the risk. What are the risks where the SDI plays a major role, geospatial data plays a major role. Second comes monitoring, detection, and forecasting. The third comes, as per WMO, third comes dissemination, emergency communication and dissemination. And fourth comes preparedness and response. I have divided to 5 to make it more simplified, because in the government system, there is a process involved in making decision about what. So once a threat or hazard is detected, information is sent to the government system, and the government system evaluate what message should go where with what preparation. So, and then based on that message, the message is being disseminated. So I have broken the early warning system into two separate, this dissemination in two separate components. That's why there are 5. But please understand, a failure of the single component out of these 4 or 5 will fail early warning system totally. Implementation or commissioning self-broadcast system or outdoor siren systems or SMS gateways is not early warning. Early warning start well in the background, where the risk is analyzed, the footprints are drawn, locations are determined, and targeted information goes based on the government decisions and response. So that is a whole, they are inseparable for early warning operational component, and each should mature proportionally in a balanced way. Then we say we have early warning system, not dissemination systems or platforms. So why early warning now? Losses, I need not to explain. The huge losses, $310 billion in economic losses for the climate-related disasters in 2024. Most of the disasters, whether those are man-made or natural, climate has some connectivity. So nowadays, a new jargon has come, climate-induced disaster. And I combined even all human-made, like even COVID, I will say climate-induced disasters. Hantavirus, I will say, we probably can link those disasters also to the... So climate is at the peak, and enormous losses in 2024. Nearly half of the country still lack multi-hazard early warning system. Why? This is an important thing to understand also. Multi-hazard does mean any kind of hazard, whether it is a locust hazard or a pest hazard or a COVID hazard or a hantavirus hazard or a Ebola hazard or a drought hazard or flood or flash flood hazard, cyclone or thunderstorm hazard, any hazard, So a single system should allow us to disseminate effective action-oriented messages to each and everybody in vulnerable area is early warning system, basically. So less than 50% of the countries are ready with the early warning system as on today, despite when billions and billions of dollars have already been pumped in. So there is some lacuna somewhere. So that's why there is an urgency to really look at everything. And as I said, that recently the Ebola has, again, it will need, recently a plane was diverted, which was going to US, because there was a information that somebody from the Ebola affected area was riding the plane. So America did not allow that plane to land, and it was diverted to Canada. So, I mean, see, these things are going to happen. These things are not one-time kind of event. They are going to happen, multiply. So this is the urgency. Now, this very, when I advocate integrate early warning to the e-governance, I look at the models, current models, and how they are functioning. So this is a comparison table. So 6 funding model of early warning system. Most common is the least developed country is donor and project-based funding. I was a consultant to Green Climate Fund and World Meteorological Organization in Caribbean. No country in Caribbean. I personally visited 21 countries in Caribbean. No country has an effective early warning system as of today. When I say effective, does mean a readiness in all 4 segments. They are ready with the detection system, they are ready with the risk footprints, they are ready with the dissemination system, and they are ready with the response system. No, they are not ready. So the world scenario is alarming. And the United Nations Secretary General says early warning for all on Earth for everybody by 2027. This is a dream. I wish him all the best. So so I have put which are sustainable, which are non-sustainable. And the sustainable model I reached at is the green, where I say integrate early warning system with the existing e-governance umbrella, make it sustainable. The funding stability crisis, the pattern repeat across the developing countries. Funding, parallel system built. They don't look at what they have. A data center, national data center is being replicated. National communication backbone replicated. So replication of so many things, except they put some last mile siren systems or mass messaging system, and they say they have early warning system. And after 5 years, when I go there and I talk to the National Hydrometeorological Agency, they say, sir, we have commissioned 24 weather monitoring stations, but none of them works because they don't have fund for operation and maintenance. Because they are donor dependent. They never provisioned national funding to sustain those kind of things. If detection, monitoring, and forecasting fails, where from you will issue a warning? Where from? No. So this is a critical thing. Bring funding sustainability. Make those early warning systems self-sustainable. How? That's what we say. It's not fund, built, and abandon. It is built, integrate, built, and have sustainable fund from the government. Now we come to the e-governance premises. What e-governance does is bring services in digital form to each household. Early warning does bring a warning message to each household. So the objective is to reach each household. In e-governance, they are already delivering citizen services, bringing them to each household irrespective of their location. And if we can piggyback, early warning can piggyback the same backbone with some modification, some strengthening, then early warning also will reach the same household at the doorstep without much, additional duplications or something. So these are the digital identity, like existing e-governance services, which include digital identity, health service, education, social protection, agriculture, land services, robust citizen communication channels already in use, US, SD, IVR, SMS, they are using in Kenya also. And crucially, it already has a last mile delivery channel. Maybe strengthening would require, they have. The objective of e-governance is simple, deliver every public service, as I said. And objective of early warning is the same objective, is not different. The gaps, this is very important. When this slide shows the gap we need to bridge. On the left, the current reality is standalone alert platform with fragmented data ownership, parallel ICT infrastructure duplicating cost, capital, as well as recurring. donor-dependent sustainability with no government ownership because projects were funded by the donors. On the right, the target vision, EWS embedded in the national digital infrastructure as a core public service. That is the message, core public service. With unified data governance, interoperability standard, and government-owned budget-sustained system, with last mile reach via existing channels and some reinforced additional channel. The dual dividend is clear. Filling last mile gap makes DPI, SDI stronger. Gaps will be filled because there is a funding for early warning system. Early warning funding should be used for strengthening DPI, SDI, e-governance. This will directly strengthen early warning system. So the dual dividend is clear. Filling last mile gap makes DPI, SDI stronger, which deliver better service and accountability for all departments, not just disaster management. The shift is from the project-based intervention to permanent government-owned digital service, digital public service. The dual dividend is transformative. EWS fill last mile blind spot. If there are blind spot at the last mile in the beach, sea line, coastal line area, we can reinforce by putting some extension, by putting some siren-based services if the cellular services are not covering, or additional augmentation of the cell towers or everything. Coming to the integrated platform stack. This is integrated platform stack, 4 interdependent layers working as a unified system, not standalone pillar. At the foundation, digital DPI, provide the rail, digital identity payments, data exchange. Second layer is special data infrastructure, hazard map, earth observation, sensor network, and location intelligence, which is crucial. This layer is sector agnostic. This is needed by all, health, transport, and disaster management also, risk assessment. The same flood map that inform EWS also serve health, education, transport, and other departments. The third layer is e-governance delivery, institutional framework, protocols, interagency coordination system, and the citizen-facing channels like USSD and IVR. And on the top, AI augmented decision support provided predictive analytic and automated threshold trigger for emergency communication and early warning. So early warning rides on the same platform. That's the argument, along with health, education, agriculture, transport service. Sector applications ride on the same national rail. The Henry will demonstrate, next speaker will demonstrate the climate-driven pest early warning system built once, delivered many. Multi-layer operational architecture. The operational architecture shows the end-to-end flow of the hazard detection to communication action in 5 steps: sense, aggregate, analyze, decide, and deliver. This is cross-sectional. This is common to all. Ground sensors and satellite feed into the national data exchange layer. AI-driven risk assessment trigger alert that go through both automated and human in the loop authorization, and then the delivery happen through existing e-governance channel, the same channel that deliver. They already carry health alert, agriculture advisory, and social protection services. Notice at the bottom, the entire system run on the shared national e-governance ICT infrastructure, not parallel system. And critically, the location generated feedback into SDI layer, enriching all public services, not just early warning system. This, let Henry cover this. These few slides I'm not covering. Let's straight away jump to the dual dividend. This is one core concept of my presentation. Dual dividend, when EWS ride on the e-governance, both systems grow stronger. Dividend one, strengthen the national platform. EWS use existing ICT rail, which in turn strengthen the platform for all services. There is no duplication. One platform serves many needs. And every dollar invested improve national digital capacity across the board. Dividend two, extended outreach and accountability. EWS fill blind gap spot in the citizen communication network. It enforces government accountability through built-in governance and audit rail. And all departments citizen benefit, not just disaster management. As I always say, early warning is not a special infrastructure. It is a public service. And when it rides on the e-governance, both get stronger. This is the dual dividend I'm advocating today. There are field evidences from India and Philippines and Bahrain, Singapore, how they have integrated the early warning into e-governance and reap the benefits. This is a conceptual realization. See how we are duplicating the left-hand side and how if we merge. This is a visual. You can see, I was part of the Disaster Management Authority. I was a part of the e-governance authority also. So we make data center, we make communication channel, we lay optical fiber to the home and everything. And when I went to the Disaster Management Authority, they make data center, they make their HRVA, hazardous vulnerability assessment. So this is a huge duplication, not only consuming resources, it's delaying and making system unsustainable. This is a visual technology kind of impression I just wanted to make you understand. The dual dividend in action. Now let us look at real evidence from three. These are, I gave 3 countries, but there are so many. What I have done is, at the end of the presentation, there is a QR code, scan that, and you will download so much of immense literature to support my argument. The imperative action, I leave these 3 imperative for action. First, institutionalize EWS on e-governance, DPI and SDI, not as a standalone project. Early warning deserve the same digital platform that deliver health, education, and transport services. Second, reap the dual dividend. Every dollar invested in EWS strengthen national digital infrastructure. Stop funding silo system and duplicating what already exists. Third, treat location data as sensor agnostic, shared intelligence. Flood maps from health planning, school catchment data, rural education route, etc. They can be used by multiple departments, same database. Early warning is not a special, again, I repeat, early warning is not a special infrastructure, it is a public service, and when it rides on e-governance, both get stronger. That's the dual dividend. This is the barcode, QR code. You can download the literature. My presentation is also there. It has more extra slides. And if you could not take, then I will put a sheet outside. You can scan from there. And I thank you. We will take questions in the end when all deliberations are over. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roop, for such a wonderful presentation. I think in the interest of time, I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'll only take close to 10 minutes, though I have close to 55 slides. So I will manage my time accordingly. But I just want to really highlight, thank you. Yeah. I just want to really highlight the importance of early warning systems that Dr. Roop has really mentioned, where these early warning systems are important within different sectors. We talk about health, agriculture, and agriculture is the area that Kabi is really strong in, where we do solve problems within agriculture and also the environment. And early warning is important because if we are able to forewarn the farmers on the likelihood of a pest or even floods occurring, meaning that the farmers are able to take action on time. So I want to really bring out the aspect of climate change, which is reshaping our pest dynamics. And we know that climate change intensify pest threats. That is something that we all know, that rising temperatures, the shift in rainfall patterns, They accelerate pest life cycles and also expand pest ranges in cooler or even hotter areas. And also altered seasonal cycles makes crops and pests to fall out of sync. So you'll find that they cause outbreaks at unexpected times. We also know that pest management becomes unpredictable, where farmers face uncertainty in terms of not knowing when and how to act. Farmers will have a problem to manage a pest in the event maybe an altered cycles or even a climate change. So there's a need for predictive modeling and early warning system, as Dr. Roop has highlighted, that these are systems that really help to solve our problems within agriculture and environment. Now, I want to bring out the problem. What problem do we really have? In new regions, we are experiencing pests. There was an outbreak of desert locust a while after COVID. In fact, even many of the farmers complained that these are end times because it appeared to be a plague. There were so many desert locusts coming in from Ethiopia, and farmers kept struggling. So because of climate change, we are experiencing a number of pests occurring, moving from different regions, coming from even Asia to Africa. And there are other even diseases like mosquitoes that brings malaria, for example. So all these threaten both plants and animals. And we can see from reports coming in from FAO, there is a rapid cross-continental spread of these pests, and they are driven by climate and also trade. So there is that need or urgency, and I want to stress the point that there is that need or urgency to have coordinated early warning systems and regional data sharings, because these early warning systems operate with global data sets. Without proper models, without having proper data sets, you'll not be able to have those good models. So what is the importance of having these early warning systems? Of course, they do empower farmers with timely, I want to stress the point, timely, precise, and simple guidance that are able to, for farmers to solve our problems. So having those timely alerts, farmers are able to act before the pest outbreaks. And of course, Dr. Roop mentioned about the communication channels that we need to disseminate these alerts to farmers. So when we have simple channels like radio, SMS, mobile phones, where farmers are able to get the alerts using their mobile phones in simple and clear language is when they're able to take action. And also integrating these early warning systems with combined biocontrol for sustainable pest control, not necessarily giving synthetic products, but having cultural or biocontrol practices that farmers are able to use. Now, I want to bring a case study. One of a service that we do have at Kabi, an innovative early warning system that we call Pest Risk Information Service, with an acronym of PRICE. So this is a data-driven early warning information system that is able to forecast the risk of crop pest outbreaks and also provide farmers with timely, actionable alerts on the best time to intervene so that they're able to mitigate the pest damages. So this model, it's being, I would say it has been rolled out in 4 countries, Kenya, Malawi, Ghana, and Zambia, and we co-developed it. It's not Kabi alone that developed it. We've worked with national partners, we've worked with the private sector to come up with this model. And basically what this model does is that it's driven by data sets. So we have global data sets, so weather data, satellite data, and we have published some of these pest models, as you can see from the paper there. And majorly, we know that pest and disease development are strongly linked to ambient conditions. We talked about rainfall, humidity, temperature. And also we have global satellite data that is available, that are open source. Of course, we have weather data from different service providers where you can aggregate this data and feed it into a model. And you can now develop a model for early warning. So the principles that drive this early warning system, the PRICE, is that it's based on having a time to act. When and what. So the when is a time to act where farmers are able to take action so that they're able to manage a specific pest. And then the what is the practices, the intervention that they'll be able to use. So PRICE, as I said, it supports an IPM approach where we do not recommend specific pesticides. We're not promoting particular products. We try to recommend active ingredients. And also, PRICE model exists for insects at the moment. So we've modeled for maize, for armyworm, beans, aphids, and also bean fly, tomato, that is Tuta absoluta. And then for pathogen models, that is viruses, it requires early warning approach where you're able to present a risk level, a dashboard that is able to give maybe risk in different counties or areas. Now, I don't want to dwell more into these best practices, but you can see that for any early warning system, you need accurate data. For any AI-driven system, early warning system, you need accurate, validated data. You need to make sure that they are timely alerts. The alerts are timely so that the farmers are able to get on time. And then, of course, our farmers able to access these alerts. And then you need the local knowledge integration, getting feedback, because even farmers have different practices. And the warnings should be timely. So this is basically the architecture that drives the PRICE system. So you can see on the left side is where modeling occurs, where we consolidate all the data sets that are fileable, open source mostly, and then we put it into a data cube. And also we support these models through our programs that we have, where we've collected a lot of data within CABI and even working with other institutions. So we do model from this side, and then on the right side is where now we disseminate these alerts to farmers. So for sustainability, which Dr. Roop mentioned, integrating these systems with national governments is where we've tried to work with the national government system to integrate so that farmers are able to get the alerts using their mobile phones. And also leveraging on government extension workers to make sure that these alerts get to the farmers. So you can see the area aspect of getting feedback against what we can improve this system. So the outputs that come out of PRICE is the time to take action. And also you can see on this side, we have a heat map. This is the map for Kenya. So you can see the map has different color coding. And in some areas, you'll find maybe the pests, it takes longer because it's cooler or maybe hot. So it can take time for pests to occur. The outputs, again, we do integrate some of the, I would say, guides or advice coming in from plantation management edition guides. And then this advice is packaged into different formats. We have SMS and also can be disseminated using radio. So these advisories, as I talked, SMS and radio, I just want to highlight, we also have bulletins that are disseminated through a PDF format, so you can access in the website. And all these, you can have an API that you can pull this bulletin. So this is an example of a message that has been crafted or sent to a mobile phone for farmers. So you can see it gives a time to act, which is the number of days to take action. It also recommends some of the biocontrols. So not only this one message, but there are some series of messages that farmers get, and also a toll number in the event farmers want to get additional information. So they call that number for free, which is a KALRO toll line number. These are bulletins that you can get in map formats. So for sustainability, what we have done is to integrate, as I said earlier, with the national digital agricultural platform in Kenya that is called KIAMIS. And this system has over 7.1 million farmers as of November last year. Of course, the numbers keep increasing. So what we have done is to have the platform that house the models integrated with the KALRO platform that has the 7.1 million farmers. And this platform of KALRO delivers extension services in real time, including even market and weather updates. So as of last year, even as we speak, we've reached close to 1 million farmers in Kenya alone receiving the PRICE alerts. Partnerships, we are looking for partners to work with. We've worked with national governments, KALRO, I just talked about KALRO. In Zambia, we work with key delivery partners who send out these alerts. And of course, other international partners like Tomorrow Now, they have weather data, ECA Africa, RCMRD to also expand these models. So if you are a partner looking to work with us, we will have the discussion. Now, let me conclude by talking about impact. How then do we really work to see the early warning system that we have? Is it helping the farmers in terms of reach, and also some of the studies we've done? So as of 2017, we've had close to 2 million farmers benefiting from this, that is in the 4 countries. And mostly this time to act alerts has been embedded with the National Agricultural Advisory Services. And we did have some inline studies in 2022, where it showed that on average, 13% of these advisory alerts, there was an increase in yields for the farmers, or the survey that we did compared to some of the control groups. And another study that we did found out 9% of the farmers who received the alerts changed their practices. Again, we did a study in Kenya, 2024, where we found, this was for tomato farmers, we found that there was an increase in tomato yield. So we only focused on sending the alerts, price alerts to the farmers, tomato farmers. And we found that most of the farmers now that use the service, there was an increase in income by 46%, and also 62 by yield, 46, and also 62 by on income. So these are studies that have been published. I'll be able to give you some of the reports that we have on these studies. Now, lessons in delivering early warning systems. What have we learned? One, showing evidence of impact is very key for building further demand, because whenever we have demonstrated impact, we'll be able even to expand the service. And measuring impact requires additional time and partnerships. Also, price allows for integration of data from different sources and it enhances that data quality. And encouraging that enabling environment, partnership, trust, co-creation with different actors. That's why we're calling for that partnership, and including that feedback mechanism. We want you to work with us because we are looking for implementing partners who will be able to integrate the models into their agricultural service so that we increase that uptake. And these models have been trained and they can run in other countries. So if we want to go to Uganda or another country where we are not working, we'll be able to work with partners and adapt the models that we have. So we can work in partnership to develop additional pest models so that we can ensure that farmers are able to get this information on time. And of course, we are interested to work with other development of innovative models that go beyond only pest. So if you can go on additional, maybe other problems that exist using this approach over price. Thank you. I now welcome my colleague, other colleague.
Yeah, good evening. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tobias Landmann, and I'm from ICIPE actually, but ICIPE is the new owner of Digital Earth Africa. So that's why I'm going to talk about the one component, which is what you mentioned, Doctor, and also you, Henry, about the Earth observation, which means big data. So basically, I'm going to talk about what Digital Earth Africa is, how it contributes to risk and early warning system development. Yeah, so Digital Earth Africa, from our perspective, we want to produce analysis-ready data based on satellite data, or what we call Earth observation. We want to have this data in a format devised by Africans for Africa and have the data available to everybody free of charge, and then disseminate that data to ministries, to the private sector, to institutions such as CABI, whoever's interested, so that they can harness the benefit of that data very easily. So we work in several thematic areas. So you see, for instance, land degradation. So that could be also because of invasive species, water, floods, one use case for early warning, then agriculture in terms of crop stress, so what Henry presented already, urbanization, and one use case is coast erosion caused by climate change, climate risks. The whole system hinges basically on a very sophisticated cloud-based server. So this is the largest and only cloud-based server for Earth observation in Africa. So basically, it uses the data from the different sensors and then makes it into an analysis-ready format. The AWS server we work with is located in Cape Town. Then we use the OGC libraries and we produce several services or platforms. And of course, aligned with that are training programs. So we give a lot of training programs. We have a very huge training platform where we regularly have people that inscribe to courses, but we also give online or in-person courses. And we try to do this for different needs and different communities at various levels. The key of Digital Earth Africa is not providing data, but the key is to provide data that has an end-to-end use to the end user, also for early warning systems. So in other words, we want to address the SDGs. We want to address policies in terms of biodiversity. We want to address early warning preparedness policies. We want to make people or communities empowered in using this data for their needs and their reporting obligations. Coming to crop as an example. So crop risk or food security is a big issue in Africa, as we know. So one of the, I would say, outstanding products or baseline products from Digital Earth Africa is using long-term data for more than 40 years in our archive. We have more than 9 petabytes of data. And running that data and comparing that to the current situation. So if there's a threat, a pest risk threat, a drought risk, abiotic, biotic, we can tell what is the current threat compared to 40 years of averages before that. So we call that anomalies, and you can see a running animation over there. It's basically our philosophy is, if I may talk technical, is based on geomedians. So we use an infamous data cube that we developed in the early 2000s and geomedians, and these are our baseline information that feeds into this anomaly calculation. We also produce fractional cover information for the whole continent, meaning you can understand of how things have changed from a woodland to a grassland or from a woodland to a cropland. Very easy. Coming to another use case is, of course, agricultural flood. So one thing that people don't realize is, okay, we have pests and diseases, but somehow these, like you were talking about multi-risk hazard, floods affect croplands, right? It's not only the drought, it's also the flood that affects cropland. And I want to just show how that is done in our ecosystem. So basically, we can use our very sophisticated water observations from space and our very sophisticated, yet again, operational cropland map, merge those, and then have something meaningful that can be used for risk assessment by last mile stakeholders. For instance, we can advise people do not plant here. We can get insurance companies to involve to ensure the crops that we speak of. And here we have a very nice image of a farmer standing in a flooded field. And it looks like this. So the red areas here, for an example area in Kisumu, are areas that in 2024, when there was a huge flood in Kenya, were flooded croplands. So mostly rain-fed agriculture that was not used to this enormous water levels. And so the anomaly gives us a chance to look at, the flooding anomaly, and together with the operational cropland layer gives us a chance to advise farmers that this is not an area suitable for cropland, at least not rain-fed cropland, because it's kind of flood prone in an extreme event. We can pull in several statistics, as you can see over there also. Another use case, of course, coming from ICIPE, we're very much ICIPE, is the International Center for Insect Physiology and Ecology. So coming from ICIPE, we're also very interested around health risk, human health risk. So we have a very large project funded by Gates on malaria risk. And here on the left, you will see an image produced by Digital Earth Africa showing various flooding regime linked to various mosquito breeding grounds. So what we did is just a very crude analysis to show that this information is much better than what's kind of hanging around from global sort of data sets on malaria risk. In this instance, it's the Malaria Atlas project. And it's this land use map on the right, you will see the green and gray, which they use for assessing malaria risk. So if you use that new information from Digital Earth Africa, it's much more brings out the nuisances of these breeding spaces and the real productive area that then can infuse into the risk models that we use for malaria. And this is an example where we even went a step further. So we took the mosquito bionomics data that you will see on the left here from our Vector Atlas project. So those are kind of, you know, what is the breeding conditions of Anopheles mosquitoes. So Anopheles mosquitoes is the one vector that's really responsible for 90% of malaria in Africa. So we looked at these thresholds, and we have all this data for the continent from that project, and we added the Digital Earth Africa water flooding regime, but also the water quality and metrics over it. So not only flooding regime, but also water color, optical typos, total suspended matter, chlorophyll A, temperature, floating algae, because some of these Anopheles, they like to breed in these algae spaces, provide some shade and breeding opportunities. And we kind of fused those two data sets together, and we got a very, I would say at this stage, not very well validated, but crude analysis of the productivity of larvae breeding spaces that can directly be used not only for larvae treatment, but also to improve abundance models, insecticide resistant models, and so on. So on the right, you can see this map. It's operational, it's large scale, it covers the largest part of Burkina Faso, Mali, and also northern Ghana, and you will see the different colors corresponding to the different threshold gradings from the Vector Atlas project, so the bionomics data, telling you, okay, there's a high risk in these greenish areas and kind of yellowish areas. The risk is much lower in terms of malaria and breeding spaces for the vector in the blue areas. So water, you know, big water dams are not very suitable for these mosquitoes. They like to breed in small water bodies that are highly seasonal. Yeah, and another use case is an early warning system that we actually operationalized in Rwanda and also in Ghana. And you were talking about radio and SMS. So here we had an SMS system as the dissemination kind of pathway. It hinges on the private sector, but it was also co-developed with government entities. So here we sent out SMSs and also radio alerts to people on 3 stressors. So the one was the fall armyworm, the other one was a weed, and the third one was climate risk. And for this weed model and for this pest model, we used Digital Earth data, and then we developed a sophisticated AI model to forecast the stresses, all of these 3, for the next month. We distributed it to farmers via SMS. So the unique combination of these stresses was linked to kind of, you know, what can you buy in a warehouse nearby? How should you intervene with biopesticides? Should you focus on certain drought-resilient seeds? So this, we kind of match-make that, and that provided an excellent opportunity. There was also a feedback mechanism. So an ex-ante survey, farmers were allowed or were able to give us feedback whether the system worked, how they reacted, and how fast they reacted. And as I said, it was driven by data from Digital Earth Africa in the back end. So on conclusion, as we saw, so Earth observation, because it gives actual information, is a critical input into these early warning systems or early warning data sets that I described. Early warning Earth observations can add the biotic component, so look at pest loadings by looking at like suitability models, by feeding suitability models. But we can also look at the sort of abiotic factors, sort of climate stress caused by soil moisture decreases in real time. Alerts to signal action is possible through these observations because they are always available, they are consistent, they are normalized, we have analysis-ready data. And the operable and scalable nature of Digital Earth Africa data provided for the African continent makes this a crucial input for many of these early warning systems. And also enhancing, if you look at the past, we have 40 years of data, so we can use that also to kind of guide preparedness and do a very comprehensive risk assessment. So I thank all the partners that are co-funding this initiative, and with that, we are looking forward to your questions or comments.
About discussion and question.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Quincy. Thank you for that awesome presentation. I think mine is a question on localization of the models that are being used to build these early warning systems. Now, bearing in mind that the climatic patterns and also environmental constraints vary from region to region, how do you achieve localization as you are building these models and for maybe a specific environment or country? Thank you.
Yeah, okay, it's a tough, I'm assuming it's to me, so, but I'm aware that you can also answer. Yeah, so I would say AI is the key and also the analysis ready data. So the data that we have, because it's consistent and scalable through the continent and specifically developed for Africa with Africans to some degree, it kind of has this technology or sort of, it can be comparable around, let me say, different ecological, socio-economic or socio-ecological gradients. Of course, there's always the need to validate it. So we do also have agricultural statistics in some cases or pest infestation rate where we validate the model. And the second one is, as just previously mentioned before, is the AI. So AI allows us to optimize or automate the model and then apply it elsewhere where we are lacking a lot of, let me say, training data. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can also add, it's a very important question because if you can't localize the models, it means they cannot be tailored to specific regions. So for the case of price, what we did was to work with the national government and also some of the stakeholders in country. We did even collect data to validate the models. For example, we did even install some of the rain gauge data loggers to check on humidity, temperature. So I think it is important to really validate with the data that you collect in country. Because aside from the global data that we use, so we've worked with the national partners within, for example, in Kenya, within counties to collect some of these data so that we validate the models.
Thank you very much for the great presentation. Yeah, early warning is such a critical part of putting people on the pathway towards resilience building. So my question, and can go to any one of you, is the models you've identified are good, but how do you integrate, or what ways have you found of integrating like indigenous knowledge in early warning models and systems?
See, this one thing I have undertaken a case study for Ethiopia. And in Ethiopia, what we are trying to do is the least developed countries where there is no institutional mechanism or hierarchy, starting from the federal government to state to the grassroots level, Kabila level, they cannot wait for that structure to build or infrastructure to come up because these are long-term institutional building. Creation of and augmentation of infrastructure is a long-term process. It takes 5 to 10 years. But you cannot wait. You need early warning today. So what you mentioned is a very important point. So in Ethiopia, what I'm trying to do is I say local warning, local forecasting, local warning. And how we are trying to achieve that is through institutionalizing the indigenous knowledge. It has never been documented, unfortunately. People use, UN document, they write indigenous knowledge, but there is no proper procedure and guidance for documenting indigenous knowledge in enlisting key indicators where you simply put the birds are flying, the cows are climbing the hill. ants are making, a bird is laying eggs on the floor instead of on the tree. Those are indicators, but nobody has documented and institutionalized those documents. So what I told that gentleman, the group who is working in Ethiopia, document that. We paid $30,000 to them to conduct that study. And I conducted 2 or 3, like big agencies, Synoptic and Google. Can you scale down the global model of forecasting to a 1 kilometer, we have 1 kilometer approximate forecast? And they agreed that we can give you on push button that forecast, an approximate forecast for that particular location. And I told that Ethiopian group that we are going to blend what you create a list of indicator and let Kabili head push that indicator, a scale down model, information, blend with that, and immediately a message will flash out that these are the action you can take for Kabili header, and he can do that. So what you said is a very, very important aspect of using indigenous knowledge and blending AI. See, AI has done a wonderful thing by making knowledge omnipresent. Same knowledge is available at national head, with the minister. Same is available at a state, and same knowledge is available with a villager. The AI has empowered villagers now. So, but how we channelize the use of AI with the indigenous knowledge and make early, local forecasting, local warning. We are working on that. And many people will adopt that. Your wonderful question, this very important thing. Thank you.
My name is Desi Salifu. I'm coming from International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology. Actually, Dr. Landman is my boss. I report to him. The problem with AI is the sustainability. These are tools that are being developed using public funds, and they are being invented in the institutions for research. I'm wondering what is the future, because the sustainability of this, not only the funding, but even the technical. I mean, these models will not just exist and sit and perform forever. There should be somebody technically monitoring that. I just wonder, how are we doing this? How do we hand over to the usual national mechanism technically and even financially to maintain them? I don't know whether Kabi has gone anywhere that far, Isipe and Ethiopia, to that end.
Yeah, I can try to respond. I think sustainability would come in so many ways. One, would you want the farmers to continue receiving the alerts for free? Would you want the government to take ownership so that the farmers would see? But for the case of price, I want to say that what we have done first is to integrate with a national government platform, because price was a donor-funded early warning system. So the donor really wanted us to continue sustaining it. So we did integrate with national government. So as much as the infrastructure runs within Kabi and the partner, where we maintain the IP and ownership and also continue to develop models, but we've integrated the dissemination aspect with the government so that farmers continue receiving it for free. But we've been looking at other commercial models where we've tried to even approach other private sector, like the insurance. So we create like dashboards for insurance companies where they'd be able to use that as a way to even give products and maybe input providers. So that as farmers receive these early warnings, then these other service providers would be able to get additional service. And with that, we are creating a model so that we can give them maybe a subscription fee to get some of the outputs coming in from price. So I think it depends on some of the models that would benefit the farmers and service providers. Thank you.
In continuation with his, see, there are two distinct segments of early warning. whether it is early warning for health, early warning for agriculture, early warning for transport, or whatever, any sector. There are 14 core sectors identified, and most of the disaster management agencies, they have defined them as emergency support functionary, ESF. You go to document, find that. I distribute the early warning in 2 core sectors now. Early warning has 4 components. The responsibility of managing those 4 components, including risk mapping, detection, monitoring, forecasting, dissemination and emergency communication, and preparedness, is government responsibility. And it should be government planned fund. Now, for e-governance, most of the government keep a funding provision of 1 to 1.5% annually of their national budget. Now, second come applications like what Henry mentioned. Such application can be sustained only with public-private partnerships. In most of the countries, there is a public-private partnership, like in India. The Tata is a very big group, TCS, Tata Communication, TCS is a big group. They started e-Chopal, not today, 15, 20 years ago, where they used to put such application where farmer can buy, sell their product, the pesticide, fertilizers, everything related to farmer, A to Z. But it was with the private partnership. It was not, see, no stress, funding stress should go to farmer. That's very important. If you start transferring funding stress to farmer, the application will fail. Bring in private partners immediately. And I tell you, if you try, there'll be 100. We call corporate social responsibility, CSR funding in India. So if a corporate start funding such application, they get tax exemption. So at the national level, they should have a vision how to help people at grassroots level by providing such incentive to corporate and private sector so they can partner, they can complement, they can support applications like Earth, Global Earth. These are wonderful applications everywhere. Like Henry is doing a wonderful work. So this, but vision has to come from the federal government. Thank you. So I think, do we have time for more questions? No, I can see your face. That's why I was worried. So, but we are open to the question. You have my mail, especially those. My domain is e-governance and early warning system. Any question, anytime, I will try to respond each and every one through their mail or. I thank you very much for listening to that.